3 glasses of water for my kids, please. A black single father, worn jacket, 2 hungry children clinging to his hands. The manager didn't even try to hide his contempt. Water? Just water? He laughed. This is a 5-star restaurant, not a welfare office for broke black folks. Sir, I can pay. Pay with what? Food stamps? The manager stepped closer, voice rising. Look around. Designer suits, Rolex watches. Then look at you, a poor black man dragging kids into places you don't belong. You're embarrassing yourself. Get out before you stink up the room. Laughter rippled through the restaurant. Phones raised, recording. Wealthy white patrons whispered, smirked, shook their heads. No one defended him. Not one person. His daughter's eyes filled with tears. His son hid behind his leg. 2 tables away, a woman in Chanel watched every moment. Her face revealed nothing. But what happened next would bring this entire restaurant to its knees. In tears. Would you have spoken up? The scent of $400 ribeye hung thick in the air at Le Méridien. Whispered laughter floated between tables draped in white linen, each fold pressed to perfection. Somewhere near the bar, a cork popped with a satisfying thump. Champagne fizzed and sparkled under the glow of a chandelier that cost more than most people's cars. The soft hum of wealth filled the space, comfortable, assured, untouchable, like a language spoken only by those who belonged. Olivia Walker sat alone in her usual corner booth, the leather cold against her back, despite the warmth radiating from the nearby fireplace. 58 years old, CEO of Pinnacle Holdings, a tech empire she'd built from nothing but stubborn will, sleepless nights, and a refusal to hear the word impossible. Forbes had called her the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley 3 years running. They meant it as a compliment. She'd never corrected them. She didn't feel like a queen tonight. She hadn't felt like one in 12 years. Her steak sat untouched on the bone-white plate, the fat congealing at the edges, the rosemary garnish wilting in the heat. She'd ordered it medium rare, the way Emma used to like it. 12 years since Emma had eaten anything at all, and Olivia still ordered for a ghost. Emma, her daughter. 8 years old forever now. Leukemia had taken her slowly at first, then all at once, the way terrible things do. Olivia remembered the hospital room with painful clarity, the rhythmic beeping of machines, the antiseptic smell that never quite covered the scent of fear, Emma's small hand growing lighter in hers with each passing day. Near the end, Emma had asked for water. Just water. The nurse had said, "In a minute, sweetheart." But that minute stretched into 5, then 10, and by the time someone brought a cup with a bendy straw, Emma's eyes had closed for the last time. Olivia had never forgiven that nurse, had never forgiven herself for not getting up, walking to the sink, and getting the water herself. Such a small thing, such an enormous failure. After the funeral, Robert left. Her husband of 15 years packed a single suitcase and stood in their kitchen, the kitchen where Emma had learned to make pancakes, where they'd celebrated birthdays and first days of school, and told Olivia he couldn't do it anymore. "I can't look at you without seeing her face," he'd said. "And you've become a stranger. You live in that office. You talk to your phone more than you talk to me. Emma's been gone 3 months, and you haven't cried once. Not once, Olivia." She'd wanted to tell him that crying felt like drowning, that if she started, she might never stop. That the office was the only place where people expected her to be cold, efficient, inhuman. She said nothing. He walked out. The divorce papers arrived 6 weeks later. Now Fridays meant this booth, this restaurant, this untouched meal. Le Méridien had been Emma's favorite, back when it was a modest bistro called Marie's, with checkered tablecloths and a hand-painted sign. Emma had loved the bread basket, the way the butter came in little flower shapes, the kindly owner who always slipped her an extra cookie. After Emma died, some developer bought the building, gutted it, installed the chandeliers and the marble floors and the attitude. The prices tripled. The soul vanished. Olivia kept coming anyway. Penance, maybe, or just habit. The difference between the two had blurred long ago. She lifted her water glass, held it to the amber light. The crystal caught the glow and scattered tiny rainbows across the tablecloth. "Water is the first hello," Emma used to say. A silly thing she'd picked up from a children's book about a princess who greeted every guest with a glass of water before asking their name. Emma had insisted on the ritual at every meal. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, didn't matter. You raised your water glass, you said, "First hello," and only then could you eat. The memory ached like a wound that had never quite healed. Olivia set down the glass, blinked against the burning in her eyes, and signaled for the check. That's when the door opened. A man walked in, bringing a gust of January cold that made the candle flames dance. Black, mid-30s. Tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. The kind of tired that settles into your bones and takes up permanent residence. He wore a jacket that was clean but worn at the elbows. The kind of wear that comes from years of use rather than fashion. The fabric had gone shiny in places from too many washes. He held the hands of two children. The girl was maybe 8, with braided hair pulled back in neat rows decorated with small purple beads. Her eyes were bright, curious, taking in everything: the chandeliers, the white tablecloths, the elegant patrons who glanced her way with expressions ranging from surprise to something less kind. The boy was younger, perhaps 5, and he clutched a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. The rabbit had been loved nearly to death, fur matted, stitching visible at the seams, one button eye replaced with a mismatched blue one. The boy pressed it against his chest like a shield. The hostess's smile flickered, just for a moment, just enough that someone watching closely, someone like Olivia, would notice. "Table for 3?" Her voice pitched higher than necessary, the way people's voices do when they're nervous about something they won't admit. "Please." The man's voice was quiet but firm, dignified. He didn't flinch at her tone, didn't apologize for existing. He simply waited. They were seated in the corner, the far corner, near the swinging kitchen doors where waiters emerged with laden trays and disappeared with dirty dishes. The worst table in the house, reserved for guests, the management hoped would leave quickly. Olivia watched from her booth. She couldn't help it. There was something in the way the man guided his children, gentle hands on small shoulders, a whispered word that made the little girl giggle despite the grandeur that seemed designed to intimidate. Something familiar, something she'd lost. The man's name was Darnell Moore. Not that Olivia knew it yet. She only saw what everyone in that restaurant saw. A black man in a jacket that wasn't quite expensive enough, with 2 children who gazed at the chandeliers like they'd stepped into a fairy tale and weren't entirely sure they were allowed to stay. What nobody in that restaurant could see was the story Darnell carried. He'd been a sous chef once. A damn good one. The kind who could taste a sauce and name every ingredient by memory. Who noticed when the oregano was a day past fresh, who could look at a plate and know exactly what was missing before the customer did. He'd worked at a restaurant not unlike this one, upscale, demanding, the kind of place where perfection was the minimum expectation. He'd been on track for his own kitchen someday. Head chef, maybe even owner. Then COVID came. The restaurant closed temporarily in March 2020. By June, temporarily became permanently. The owners filed bankruptcy. The staff scattered. Darnell collected unemployment for a while, then pivoted to delivery driving, then warehouse work, then whatever he could find. Then Janelle. Janelle. His wife. His heart. His home. Gone 18 months now. A drunk driver on a Tuesday afternoon. Just a regular Tuesday. Janelle had been driving home from the grocery store with ingredients for Maya's birthday cake, chocolate with strawberry frosting, Maya's favorite. She'd texted Darnell a photo of the strawberries. "Look how perfect. She's going to lose her mind." 20 minutes later, she was gone. The drunk driver walked away with a broken collarbone. Janelle never walked anywhere again. The hospital called while Darnell was picking up the kids from school. Maya had been bouncing in her seat, talking about the party, about the friends she'd invited, about the new dress Mama had promised to help her pick out. Isaiah had been chattering about the candles. 8 of them. 1 for each year. And could he help blow them out? Please, please, please. There was no party, no dress, no candles. There was only a funeral with a closed casket, and then silence, and then bills that piled up like accusations. Mortgage payments, medical debt from the hospital that couldn't save her, credit cards Darnell didn't even know they had. Tonight, he'd brought his children to Le Méridien because Janelle had dreamed of it. Someday, she used to say, curled against him on their second-hand couch while the kids slept, we'll take them somewhere fancy, white tablecloths, real cloth napkins, those little bread baskets with butter shaped like roses. They'll feel like princes and princesses, baby. Just for one night. Someday had never come for Janelle, but Darnell could give it to their children. Just once. Just tonight. Even if it cost him everything in his wallet. Even if they had to eat beans and rice for the rest of the week. He opened the menu. The leather binding was soft, expensive. The pages were thick, creamy, hand-lettered in elegant script. His chef's eyes scanned the prices automatically, the way a former smoker still notices cigarette displays. Butternut squash soup, $38. Garden salad, $42. Chicken breast with seasonal vegetables, $68. The steak, a simple ribeye, $112. His wallet held $34. His credit card had been declined at the gas station yesterday. Maya leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. Daddy, can I get the chicken? The one with the fancy name I can't say? Isaiah jabbed a finger at a picture in the children's menu insert. I want the swirly pasta, with the cheese. Darnell's throat tightened. He'd known this would happen. He'd prepared himself on the drive over, rehearsed the words, told himself it would be fine. But knowing didn't make it easier. Nothing made it easier. Tell you what, he said, keeping his voice steady through sheer force of will. Let's start with water tonight, okay? See how we feel. Maya's face fell. Just for a second. A flicker of disappointment that she quickly buried. The way children do when they've learned that disappointment is just another thing adults expect them to swallow without complaint. Okay, Daddy. She reached for his hand under the table. Squeezed. Her fingers were small and warm and trusting. Mama always said water's the most important thing anyway. It means the meal is starting. Something cracked inside Darnell's chest. He blinked rapidly, looking up at the chandelier, willing the tears back where they belonged. When the waiter came, young, polished, with the carefully neutral expression of someone trained to judge without appearing to, Darnell ordered, 3 glasses of water, please. A pause. Barely perceptible, but there. Just water, sir? Just water. The waiter's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. He nodded once and retreated toward the bar. At her table across the room, Olivia Walker watched a father order water for his children in a restaurant where water cost nothing, because that was all he could afford. She watched him sit up straight, despite the weight on his shoulders. Watched him smile at his kids like they were dining at the finest establishment in the world, because to him, they were. And something inside her, something frozen for 12 years, began to crack. The water arrived in crystal glasses, 3 of them, lined up like soldiers on the white tablecloth. Isaiah reached for his immediately, both small hands wrapped around the glass. It's fancy water, Maya. Look how clear it is. Maya smiled, genuinely smiled. Daddy, can we do what Mama taught us? Darnell nodded, not trusting his voice. Maya raised her glass. Isaiah did the same, sloshing a little on the tablecloth. Darnell lifted his, hands steady despite everything crumbling inside him. "First hello," Maya whispered. "First hello," Isaiah echoed. They clinked glasses, drank. For a moment, Janelle was there, in the ritual she'd invented, in the children's eyes, in the way the light caught the water. The moment shattered when Bradley Stone appeared at their table. Bradley was the manager of Le Méridien, former military, 15 years in the service industry, convinced that standards were what separated civilization from chaos. He wore his suit like armor and his smile like a weapon. "Sir," Bradley's voice carried, deliberately, "I couldn't help but notice that you've only ordered water." Darnell looked up, met his eyes. "That's correct." "I see." Bradley's smile didn't waver. "Well, this is a dining establishment, not a waiting room." Nearby tables went quiet. Conversations paused mid-sentence. "We're customers," Darnell said. "We ordered. We're drinking." "Water isn't an order, sir." Bradley leaned closer. His voice dropped, but in the new silence, every word was audible. "Perhaps McDonald's would be more appropriate for your situation." Maya's eyes went wide. Isaiah pressed himself against his father's side. Darnell felt heat rise in his chest. He could say many things. He could remind this man that he'd prepared dishes in restaurants that would make Le Méridien look like a food court. He could explain that his wife had dreamed of this place, that he was keeping a promise to a woman who would never eat another meal. Instead, he simply said, "We're fine right here." Bradley straightened. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're making other guests uncomfortable." "By drinking water?" "By taking up space you haven't paid for." At her table, Olivia Walker felt something snap. 12 years. 12 years of Friday nights. 12 years of watching, staying silent, keeping to herself. 12 years of being the ice queen. Emma's voice in her memory. "Water is the first hello." She stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor, loud in the pregnant silence. Every head turned. Olivia walked across the restaurant. Her heels clicked against marble. Click, 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 like a countdown. "Is there a problem here?" Her voice was low, controlled. The voice that had closed billion-dollar deals and fired executives without flinching. Bradley recognized her immediately. His face transformed, servility replacing contempt like a mask snapping into place. "Ms. Walker, what a pleasure. I heard what you were doing." Olivia cut him off. "These guests are with me now. Please bring the full menu, and your finest hot chocolate for the children. Extra whipped cream." Maya gasped. Isaiah's eyes went round as saucers. Bradley sputtered. "But ma'am, they only ordered—" "Did I stutter?" He retreated, almost ran. Olivia turned to Darnell. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his face, the gray at his temples that shouldn't be there at 34. But she could also see his spine, straight, unbroken, refusing to bend. "May I sit?" she asked. Not demanded. Asked. Darnell studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. She slid into the booth beside Maya. "I'm Olivia. I eat alone too much. Would you mind the company?" "I'm Maya," the girl said solemnly. "Are you a princess? You dress like one." Olivia's throat tightened. Emma would have been about this age, would have asked the same impossible questions. "No, sweetheart. Just someone who forgot what company feels like." The food arrived in waves. Butternut squash soup, steam rising in delicate curls, bread baskets overflowing with warm rolls, hot chocolate crowned with mountains of whipped cream that made Isaiah squeal with delight. Darnell hesitated, pride warring with his children's hunger. Olivia saw it. "Please," she said quietly. "It's not charity, it's just, I haven't enjoyed a meal in a long time. You'd be doing me a favor." Something in her voice, the raw honesty of it, made Darnell relent. Maya took a spoonful of soup. Her eyes widened. "Daddy, it's like your soup. Remember when you made it and Mama said it was the best thing she ever tasted?" Isaiah grabbed a roll, tore into it with his teeth. "Daddy's soup is better," he declared through a mouthful of bread. Darnell smiled, the first real smile in months. "I don't know about that, buddy." Over dinner, really dinner now, with chicken and pasta and all the things they'd only looked at, the story came out, piece by piece. Janelle's dream, the accident, the job loss, the eviction notice waiting at home. Olivia listened. She didn't offer solutions or platitudes. She just listened, the way no one had listened to her after Emma died. As the meal wound down, she heard Bradley's voice again. Not at their table, across the room, whispering to another couple, gesturing toward Darnell, smirking. Something in her solidified. Olivia Walker stood. The restaurant had been watching all evening. Furtive glances, whispered judgments. Now she would give them something to watch. "Excuse me." Her voice carried without shouting. The acoustics of Le Méridien did the work. "I'd like to share something with all of you." Silence. Complete. The kitchen noise faded behind closed doors. "This man," Olivia gestured to Darnell, "lost his wife 18 months ago. Tonight he brought his children here because it was her dream, to see them sit at a table with white tablecloths, just once. He ordered water because that's all he could afford. And your manager," she pointed at Bradley, frozen near the bar, "told him to go to McDonald's." A murmur rippled through the room. "I've eaten here every Friday for 12 years. I've never spoken to anyone. I've never noticed anyone. I've been so wrapped up in my own grief that I forgot other people exist." Her voice cracked. She let it. "But this man, this father, reminded me of something my daughter used to say. Water is the first hello. It means every meal, every meeting, every person deserves a beginning, a chance." She raised her water glass. "Two first hellos." For a moment, nothing. Then a woman at the next table, older, gray-haired, tears streaming down her face, stood, raised her glass. "Two first hellos." A man across the room, then another. A young couple near the window. A family with teenagers who looked embarrassed and moved at the same time. One by one, the entire restaurant rose. Glasses lifted, voices joined. "To first hellos." Maya stood on her chair, not caring about propriety, and bowed deeply, the way she'd seen in a movie once. Isaiah waved, delighted by the attention, not fully understanding but sensing something important. Someone shouted, "Their dinner's on me!" "No, me!" Another voice. The maitre d', who had been standing frozen by the entrance, quietly began to weep. Darnell Moore sat in the center of it all, his children beside him, strangers toasting his wife's memory, and for the first time since Janelle's funeral, he didn't feel invisible. Olivia Walker looked at him across the table, this man she'd known for less than an hour, and felt something thaw. A glacier, melting. A door, opening. Bradley Stone stood alone near the service entrance, face white, phone clutched in his hand. No one was looking at him. No one was toasting him. He slipped into the back hallway, made a call. "It's Stone. We have a problem. The Moore eviction. She knows." The applause had barely faded when they stepped out into the January night. Cold hit them like a wall. Darnell pulled off his jacket, the same worn jacket he'd treasured for years, and wrapped it around both children, tucking Isaiah against his left side, Maya against his right. "Thank you," he said to Olivia. The words felt inadequate. "For everything." She handed him a business card, cream-colored, embossed, her name in silver letters. If you ever need anything, I mean it. Darnell looked at the card, at the address, at the weight of what she was offering. He tucked it into his shirt pocket, close to his heart. Daddy. Maya tugged his sleeve. That was like a movie. Like when the princess saves everyone. You saved everyone, baby girl. He kissed the top of her head. You and your first hellos. Olivia smiled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled like this, without planning it, without forcing it. It felt foreign on her face. It felt right. She was about to offer them a ride when the service door banged open. Bradley Stone emerged from the shadows, without his manager's poise, without his careful smile, just raw anger, radiating from him like heat. You. He pointed at Darnell. You think you won something tonight? Darnell stepped back, positioning his children behind him. I don't want trouble. You already have trouble. Bradley advanced. His breath fogged in the cold air. She fired me. 15 years, gone. Because of you. I didn't ask for any of this. Didn't you? Bradley laughed, harsh, bitter. Coming here, playing the sympathy card, getting her to humiliate me in front of everyone. I know what you are. I've seen your type before, scam artists. Targeting wealthy women. Olivia stepped forward. That's enough. Is it? Bradley turned on her. You don't know anything about him. You met him 2 hours ago, but I know. I know about his eviction, his debts, his... How do you know about my eviction? Darnell's voice was quiet, dangerous. That's not public information. Bradley's mouth snapped shut. Too late. Who told you? Darnell pressed. Who gave you my address, my financial records? It's none of your... Who? In the silence, Maya whispered, Daddy, I'm scared. That sound, his daughter's fear, cut through everything. Darnell pulled her closer. Isaiah was trembling against his leg. We're leaving, Darnell said. But Bradley wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone, held it up like a weapon. CPS might be interested to know that a soon-to-be homeless father is dragging his kids to restaurants they can't afford, spending money on fancy dinners instead of rent. What kind of parent does that? Ice flooded Darnell's veins. Not fear for himself, fear for Maya and Isaiah. The system could take them. He'd seen it happen. Fathers who lost their jobs, then their homes, then their children, one domino falling after another. You don't know anything about my children. His voice shook. He couldn't stop it. I know enough. Bradley smiled, the smile of a man who'd found a pressure point. Sleep well, Mr. Moore. I'm sure the social workers will want to see your apartment tomorrow. What's left of it, anyway. He turned and walked away, unhurried, confident. Olivia's hand closed on Darnell's arm. He can't do that. He won't. He can. Darnell watched Bradley disappear around the corner. He knows people. I can tell. This isn't just about tonight. This is something else. What do you mean? But Darnell was already gathering his children, checking their faces for tears, whispering reassurances he didn't fully believe. I need to get them home. Olivia wanted to protest, wanted to offer her car, her lawyers, her money, but she saw his face, the closed-off look of a man who'd learned to trust no one and understood. She stepped back. My number's on the card. Please, call me. He nodded. Once. And then he was gone, swallowed by the night, his children's small forms pressed against him for warmth. Olivia stood alone outside Le Méridien, the cold seeping through her designer dress, Bradley's words echoing in her ears. I know about his eviction. How? Why would a restaurant manager know or care about one customer's financial troubles? Something was wrong. Something bigger than a petty man's wounded pride. She pulled out her phone, called her assistant. I need everything you can find on Darnell Moore. Address, employment history, landlord records, and cross-reference any connection to Le Méridien or its parent company. Ma'am, it's almost midnight. Now, James. She hung up, stared at the spot where Darnell had vanished. The game had changed, and Olivia Walker hadn't become a billionaire by ignoring her instincts. The files arrived at 6 a.m. Olivia hadn't slept. She sat in her penthouse office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that showed a city waking up, and she read. Darnell Moore, 34 years old, former sous chef at Meridian Culinary Group, the same company that owned Le Méridien. Let go during COVID restructuring. Wife Janelle Moore, deceased. 2 children, Maya and Isaiah. Current address, apartment 4B, Riverside Terrace, owned by Crescent Properties. Olivia's coffee went cold in her hand. Crescent Properties. She knew that name. She owned that name. Crescent Properties was a subsidiary of Pinnacle Holdings, her company, her subsidiary. One of dozens she'd acquired over the years, managed by executives she'd never met, producing quarterly reports she'd never read. She pulled up the Crescent files, scrolled through properties, acquisitions, eviction records. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in chemicals. Crescent Properties had spent the last 3 years systematically buying apartment buildings in historically black neighborhoods, raising rents beyond what tenants could afford, filing evictions on technicalities, flipping the buildings into luxury condos. Riverside Terrace was their latest project, 42 families slated for removal, Darnell Moore's family among them. The eviction notices were signed by a property manager named Bradley Stone, former employee of Crescent before moving to restaurant management, still on the payroll as a consultant. And the executive who'd approved the entire scheme? Victor Lawson, board member of Pinnacle Holdings, the man who'd told Olivia just last year that her community investment portfolio was performing beautifully. Olivia's hands trembled as she kept reading. Inspection reports, the documentation that justified each eviction. She pulled Darnell's file specifically, compared the listed violations to the property records. The report described a 4th-floor apartment with a faulty smoke detector, water damage on the ceiling, and black mold in the bathroom. Darnell lived in a 2nd-floor unit. 1 bedroom, no recorded maintenance issues. They'd fabricated the inspection. The entire document was for a different building. I'm the monster in his story, Olivia whispered to her empty office. And I didn't even know. She was still staring at the screen when her phone rang. Victor Lawson. Olivia, I heard about the incident at Le Méridien last night. Very public-spirited of you. But I think we should discuss the Moore situation before you do anything rash. The Moore situation. She kept her voice neutral. What situation is that, Victor? The eviction. It's all perfectly legal, I assure you. The property was underperforming. We're revitalizing the neighborhood, creating value. By fabricating inspection reports? Silence. I've seen the documents, Victor. The inspection for Darnell Moore's apartment describes a building he doesn't live in. Care to explain? More silence. Then, Olivia, let's not be naive. This is how business works. Some people own property, some people rent. The renters move on. That's simply nature. Nature, she laughed, hollow, bitter. You're destroying families and calling it nature. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Victor's voice hardened. Your behavior last night was erratic, unprofessional. Several board members are concerned about your emotional stability. Perhaps it's time to discuss a temporary leave of absence. The line went dead. Olivia sat very still. The city gleamed outside her windows. She'd built this empire, every brick, every deal, every sleepless night, And now her own creation was being used to crush people like Darnell Moore. She could fight. She had money, lawyers, power. But Victor had the board, and the board could remove her before she could prove anything. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. They came for my kids this morning. CPS. Someone filed a report. I have 24 hours to stabilize my housing situation, or they're placing them in foster care. I don't know what to do. Below the text, 3 words. You promised to help. Olivia was out the door before she finished reading. The CPS van was still parked outside Riverside Terrace when Olivia arrived. She found Darnell in the hallway outside his apartment, door open, 2 social workers inside, his children's voices echoing off bare walls. They can't do this. Darnell's voice was mechanical. Shock. I fed them breakfast. They were laughing. And then the knock. Mr. Moore? A woman in a gray blazer emerged from the apartment, professional, detached. We've completed our assessment. Given the pending eviction and lack of stable housing, we're recommending temporary placement for Maya and Isaiah. Temporary? Darnell grabbed the door frame. How temporary? That depends on your ability to secure appropriate housing. Could be weeks, could be months. Months. The word hit him like a physical blow. You want to take my children for months because I'm being evicted from an apartment I can't afford because someone raised my rent by 40%? Sir, I understand this is difficult. You don't understand anything. Maya appeared in the doorway. Her face was pale. Daddy? The lady says we have to go with her. Is it true? Darnell dropped to his knees, pulled her close. Isaiah stumbled out behind her, clutching his rabbit, not understanding, just knowing something was wrong. It's going to be okay, Darnell said. Daddy's going to fix this. Promise? I promise. But the social worker was already moving. Another worker, male, apologetic, gently separated the children from their father. Maya screamed. Isaiah wailed. Darnell reached for them, and an officer stepped between. Sir, please don't make this harder. They were gone in 3 minutes. Van doors slamming, engine starting, taillights disappearing around a corner. Darnell stood on the sidewalk, arms empty, staring at nothing. Olivia watched it all. The scream lodged in her throat. She wanted to run after the van, throw money at the problem, make it stop. But she couldn't. Not yet. Not without proof. She approached Darnell slowly. He didn't acknowledge her. I'm going to get them back, she said. How? His voice was dead. You saw. The system takes and takes, and the system is being used against you. Someone wanted this to happen. Bradley Stone, Victor Lawson. There's a whole scheme, Darnell. They've been targeting families like yours across the city, fabricating documents, forcing people out. He finally looked at her, red-rimmed eyes, hollow cheeks. Your company. Yes. You're telling me your company took my children. I didn't know. But it's still your company. He stepped back. How do I know this isn't some game? Rich woman plays savior, makes herself feel good, goes back to her penthouse? You don't know. Olivia's voice cracked. I wouldn't believe me either. But I'm asking you to let me try. Not because I'm generous, because I can't live with myself if I don't. The silence stretched between them. Finally, Darnell spoke. Janelle always said kindness from people like you is just another trap. Maybe she was right. Olivia met his eyes. But maybe sometimes the trap becomes a door. I don't know. I just know I can't walk away. He stared at her for a long moment. Fine, he said. Help me get my children back. Then we're done. It wasn't trust, but it was a start. The next 4 days were a descent into bureaucratic hell. Lawyers filed motions, judges scheduled hearings. CPS required home assessments, psychological evaluations, proof of income, proof of housing, proof of everything, except what mattered. that Darnell loved his children and his children needed him. Meanwhile, Victor moved against Olivia. An emergency board meeting. 3 hours of accusations. Emotional instability. Conflict of interest. Fiduciary negligence. By the end, she was suspended from her own company, pending a formal review. Security escorted her from Pinnacle headquarters, her keycard deactivated, her email locked. She stood on the sidewalk, the same sidewalk she'd walked for 30 years, and felt the empire she'd built crumbling around her. That night, she found Darnell outside the CPS building. He'd been there since dawn, unshaven, unchanged. A man holding vigil. "They won't let me see them," he said. 48 hours and I can't even see their faces." Olivia sat beside him on the cold concrete bench. She'd lost everything today. Her company, her reputation, her power. But Darnell had lost more. "I had a daughter," she said. The words came out before she could stop them. "Emma. She died when she was 8. Same age as Maya." Darnell turned. For the first time, he really looked at her. "The night she died, I was in a board meeting. Quarterly earnings. Victor called it essential. I got to the hospital 20 minutes after she was gone." Olivia's voice broke. "I never got to say goodbye. I never got to hold her hand at the end. I chose money over my daughter, and I've spent 12 years trying to forget it." Silence. "I don't expect forgiveness," she continued, "from you or from her, but I'm not leaving. I'm going to help you get your children back, and I'm going to bring down everyone who did this to you. Not because I'm good, because maybe if I do something right, I can look at myself again." The wind picked up, cold, biting. Darnell didn't respond, but when Olivia stood to leave, he spoke. "Emma. That's a beautiful name. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something." The breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Darnell himself. 3 nights after Maya and Isaiah were taken, he couldn't sleep. Instead, he pulled out the eviction documents, the same papers he'd read a dozen times, and spread them across his kitchen table. He'd been a chef, a good one. And good chefs learned to see what others missed. The oregano that was a day past fresh, the sauce that needed a pinch more salt, the customer who smiled but didn't mean it, details, patterns, inconsistencies. He read the inspection report again. 4th floor unit, faulty smoke detector, water damage, black mold. But he lived on the 2nd floor. He checked the address. 742 Riverside Terrace, Unit 4B. His apartment was 2B. Someone had changed the unit number, but not the description. The report described a completely different apartment in a completely different building. He dug deeper. Found the signature of the inspector, Harold Green, licensed by the city of... Wait, Harold Green's license had expired 6 months before the inspection date. He wasn't authorized to file reports. Darnell grabbed his phone, dialed Olivia. "I found it," he said. "The whole thing is fabricated. I can prove it." By morning, they had everything. 42 families, 42 false inspection reports, all signed by Harold Green, all approved by Bradley Stone, all rubber-stamped by a city housing official who'd received consulting fees from Crescent Properties. And at the top of the pyramid, Victor Lawson, whose personal accounts showed deposits that matched the timeline of every fraudulent eviction. "Janelle always said I notice everything," Darnell murmured, staring at the evidence spread across Olivia's conference table. Guess she was right. Olivia looked at him, this man who'd lost everything, who'd been ground down by systems designed to crush him, and saw something she hadn't expected. Not a victim, a fighter. The press conference was held on the steps of City Hall. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. A crowd gathered, growing larger by the minute. Olivia spoke first. She stood at the microphone in a simple black dress, no jewelry, no armor, and dismantled her own empire in public. Pinnacle Holdings, the company I founded, has been used to destroy families. 42 households displaced, fabricated documents, bribery, corruption. I take full responsibility for not knowing, but I am here to make it right. She announced her resignation as CEO. The creation of a victims fund, a full internal investigation with independent oversight. Then she stepped aside. Darnell Moore took the microphone. He wore a clean shirt, borrowed but it fit. His hands were steady. His voice carried. They thought I couldn't read. He held up a sheaf of papers. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought because I was poor, because I was black, because I'd lost everything, that I would just disappear. He looked directly into the cameras. They were wrong. The questions came in a flood. How did you find the evidence? What happens now? Will you press charges? Darnell answered each one calmly, clearly, the way a man speaks when he's finally being heard. My children were taken from me because someone wanted my apartment. My wife dreamed of giving them a better life, and instead, they saw their father humiliated, their home stolen, their future erased. But we're still here. And every family they did this to, we're coming for justice. All of us. The arrests happened that afternoon. Victor Lawson, handcuffed in his corner office, face gray with shock. He'd thought he was untouchable. He'd thought wrong. Bradley Stone, apprehended at the airport with a one-way ticket to Mexico. He didn't resist. He just looked tired, like a man who'd always known this day would come. Harold Green, the housing official, 3 property managers, a network built on cruelty, dismantled in a single day. Olivia watched the perp walks from across the street. She felt no triumph, only exhaustion. And underneath that, something quieter, the faint stirring of hope. Her phone buzzed, a text from Darnell. CPS called. They're releasing Maya and Isaiah. Can you be there? She was there in 20 minutes. The CPS building had never felt warm. Industrial carpets, fluorescent lights, the smell of institutional coffee and stale bureaucracy. But when the doors opened and Maya came running out, "Daddy!" The whole place transformed. Isaiah followed, clutching his one-eared rabbit, legs pumping, tears streaming. Darnell caught them both, swept them up, held on like he'd never let go. "I knew you'd come!" Maya sobbed into his shoulder. "I told Isaiah. I said Daddy always comes." "I'll always come." Darnell's voice broke. "Always." Olivia stood by the entrance, watching. She didn't belong to this moment. It was theirs, private, sacred. But she couldn't look away. Then Maya lifted her head, saw her, broke free from Darnell, ran across the lobby, slammed into Olivia's legs with enough force to stagger her. "Thank you, Princess Lady." Maya's voice was muffled against her coat. "Thank you for finding my daddy." Olivia knelt, met the girl's eyes, bright, trusting, impossibly alive. "Your daddy found himself, sweetheart. I just watched." Isaiah toddled over. He held out his water bottle, a cheap plastic thing, half empty, decorated with cartoon dinosaurs. "First hello?" he asked. Olivia laughed. It came out wet, broken, strange. "First hello," she agreed. She took the bottle, drank, and somewhere, in a place beyond time and loss, Emma smiled. 6 months later, the building at 742 Riverside Terrace had transformed. Where eviction notices once papered the doors, a new sign hung. Moore Family Kitchen. Free meals, no questions. The smell of fresh bread drifted through open windows. Inside, Darnell worked his old magic. Soups that warmed the soul, bread that tasted like home, hot chocolate with mountains of whipped cream that made every child's eyes go wide. Maya did her homework at a corner table, tongue poking out in concentration. Isaiah helped by sorting napkins into increasingly creative piles. Around them, families filled every seat, some from the original 42, some from the neighborhood, some who'd heard about the place from a friend of a friend. No one asked where you came from. No one checked your bank account. You were hungry. You ate. That was the only rule. The kitchen had been funded by the settlement from Pinnacle Holdings, supplemented by donations from across the country after the story went viral. Darnell had hired 3 of his neighbors as staff. They were training more. Olivia visited every week. Same time, same table by the window. Today, Maya spotted her first. "Olivia! Daddy, the princess is here!" Darnell wiped his hands on his apron, chef's whites now, proper ones, and emerged from the kitchen. He'd filled out over the months, stood straighter, smiled more. "You're early," he said. "Traffic was light." She settled into her chair. "Smells incredible." "Should hope so. Janelle's soup today, the one Maya remembered." He brought her a bowl. Steam curled toward the ceiling. Beside it, a glass of water. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from having survived something together. "The scholarship fund officially launched yesterday," Olivia said eventually. "The Emma Walker Memorial Foundation. We've already placed 12 kids in programs." Darnell nodded. "She'd be proud of that." "Maybe." Olivia stared at her water glass. "Or maybe she'd wonder why it took me so long to see." "She'd be proud," Darnell repeated. "Janelle would have liked you, you know. She always said real kindness is quiet, doesn't need applause." "Your wife sounds like she was wise." "She was." He smiled. "Except about my cooking. She was biased there." They laughed. It was strange how laughter could coexist with grief, not erasing it, just making room. The door opened. A young mother entered, 2 children clinging to her hands, uncertainty written across her face. The look of someone who'd been told this was a place for people like her, but couldn't quite believe it. Maya was already moving. 8 years old, practically vibrating with purpose. "Hi! Welcome to Moore Family Kitchen." She grabbed menus from the stack by the door. "You can sit anywhere. The soup is really good today. My daddy made it. And if you want hot chocolate, Isaiah makes the whipped cream extra big. He's my brother. He's 5. Isaiah waved from behind his napkin fort. The mother's shoulders relaxed. Just slightly. Just enough. Maya led them to a table, chattering about her favorite dishes, completely unaware that she'd just changed someone's entire day. Olivia watched. "She's something," she said. "She's Janelle's daughter." Darnell's voice was thick. "Through and through." Maya returned to their table, bouncing on her heels. "Olivia, can we do the thing? For the new people?" "The thing? You know, the thing." Darnell was already standing. He moved to the center of the room where everyone could see, raised his glass of water. "Excuse me, everyone. For those of you who are new, we have a tradition here." The room quieted. Curious faces turned toward him. "My wife used to say that water is the most important part of any meal. Not because it's fancy, not because it costs anything, but because it means the meal is starting. It means you're welcome. It means you belong." He lifted his glass higher. "So, to first hellos." Around the room, glasses rose. Some people laughed, confused but charmed. Others, the ones who'd been here before, who knew the story, raised their glasses with tears in their eyes. "To first hellos," the room echoed. Maya stood on her chair, beaming. Isaiah waved his sippy cup. The young mother at the new table wiped her eyes and raised her water glass too. And Olivia Walker, former ice queen, former billionaire, former ghost, raised hers with a full heart. To first hellos, to second chances, to the people who remind us we're still human. A glass of water. That's all it was. A glass of water and a father who refused to break. A woman who remembered how to feel. Sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest truths. Darnell didn't need a savior. He needed a witness, someone to see him when the world looked away. And Olivia? She didn't save him. She saved herself by finally letting someone in. So tell me, what moment in this story touched your heart? Was it Maya saying, "First hello"? Darnell standing before those cameras, refusing to disappear? The restaurant rising to its feet? Olivia kneeling to meet a child's eyes? Write it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever been invisible, if you've ever been the person ordering water while praying nobody notices, know this: you matter, your story matters, and you are not alone. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Hit the bell so you never miss a moment when kindness wins. Until next time, stay kind, and never underestimate the power of a glass of water.